like to first of all welcome you for coming out to today's Bellevue Real Estate Showcase. Got a pretty good fast-paced program that should give you some good insight as to not only what's going on in Bellevue in this past year since our last showcase, but what's in transition and what's to come. And like I said, it's a pretty quick program. You've got some books in front of you on your table that have a lot of data for you too that will be a take home with you, that any questions, hopefully those will help answer it, as well as some handouts afterwards from some of the presenters. But we also would like to make sure that we recognize our sponsors today. Today's program wouldn't be possible without our sponsors. If I can give a shout out to our E&A engineering group, Coley Jessen and attorneys with Tom Ackley, McGrath North, OPPD, and U.S. Bank are our title sponsors, and again, without their support, this program wouldn't be possible. So if I can give them a round of applause, thanking them for our support. We also have our supporting and corporate sponsors, and I want to thank them too. Again, we have Twin Creek, Black Hills Energy, Hike Real Estate, Courtyard by Marriott, which is a new entity here in Bellevue, and then Lockwood Development, along with Wheats Construction. So thanking them too for their support today too. So let's give them a shout out. We're going to have our, if I could introduce our mayor, Rita Sanders, is going to start us out here today, tell you some good things about Bellevue, and then followed up with Dan Berlowitz, our city administrator. So Mayor, if I could have you come to the podium.
I'm really here just to greet you all today. I want to thank you all for coming out this, is it afternoon yet? Let's call it afternoon. Most of us have been going at this since 5 o'clock this morning. Before we move on the agenda today, I want to also recognize the elected officials that are here in the room, and I want to thank you all for coming. We have Councilmember at Large Carol Blood, Councilman Blood in the back. We have County Engineer Dennis Wilson is here on my left. Tom Richards, County Commissioner, I think you'll be hearing from him back in the room there. And we also have a few from the Planning Commission for the City of Bellevue, and the Chair of the Planning Commission, Stephanie Kane, is here, I believe, in the back, and I did see Tom Ackley run in also. There's an accident on Kennedy Freeway. Did anybody run into that? So we are going to have a few that'll be running in just a little bit late. And thank you again for the sponsors, the banking, the energy, the law, engineering, and all the developers that are here today. Thank you. It takes all of us working together to try and make some great things happen in our city. I just came from a meeting in Omaha. The director of HUD is here, and we're talking about homelessness, particularly veterans. And how do we help the veterans? And as the mayor of the city of Bellevue, home of Offutt Air Force Base, we need to step up and participate in that challenge. But it really came down to affordable housing. There are a lot of people that don't want affordable housing in their city. But we're trying to make that affordable housing also our workforce. We know we have plenty of affordable housing here in Bellevue. And let's make that part of the place that people can work, because the developers that we're hearing from out there right now are talking about the low unemployment rate. And where's the workforce coming from? Well, they're right here in our city. We've got the housing for them. So how we work together to bring more developers in with the industry that's already here and the workforce that's already here. And so working together on this level is so much appreciated, so we can move this city forward in a very positive way. So thank you all for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to Dan Berlowitz, our city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pleased to be able to be part of today's presentation. I'm going to be starting off today by presenting what I would call some facts and figures relating to the city of Bellevue, facts and figures that we believe demonstrate that Bellevue clearly is well positioned for potential developers and contractors to do business here. First of all, the very first slide, when you pass a Welcome to Bellevue sign or look up the city's population online, you will find the number of 53,663. While that number is large enough to make Bellevue the third largest city in the state of Nebraska, it doesn't take in, well, I guess I might say also that we're the third largest except on game days at Memorial Stadium. We all know how that works. So, but this number does not take into account the number of people who live within our 2-mile jurisdiction. would be our corporate limit that you see initially, the 53,000. But within our 2-mile area, we have a number of SIDs as well. And so some of those you might recognize, such as Tregaron, Hyde Hills, Pilgrim's Landing. When those numbers are taken into account, that raises Bellevue's total population within our 2-mile jurisdiction to over 86,000 people. And I might point out that a lot of the people who live in the SIDs within our jurisdiction, they do a lot of shopping as well as dining in Bellevue, and that makes us attractive to what we feel for potential businesses as well as developers. So we do have a population base that's significant. The next slide are numbers that are the averages that most developers look at when determining where to invest in. Often, though, developers do not give a look or really give a serious look, though, at areas based upon the averages that you see, which we oftentimes believe those averages can be inaccurate or misleading. However, like a lot of information that is in the book, and it's good information, it often does not really tell the true story of Bellevue in terms of the number of rooftops. If you look at the number of rooftops that we have within the various zip codes, and we have 6 zip code areas that are within the city of Bellevue's 2-mile jurisdiction. But if you look at the number of the household rooftops as well as the household values and average income, it gives a much clearer picture of really what Bellevue has to offer. The next is a map that shows the population density within Sarpy County. And if you will look at it, it shows a couple things. One thing some of you may or may not know, that Sarpy County is the fastest growing county in the state of Nebraska in population, and the projections indicate that we don't expect that to change in the future. Probably a key item, and also you notice that the majority of the population in Sarpy County is in the eastern portion of the county, which most of Bellevue is located in. So there again, that speaks to population base. The other element, if you look at down in kind of, it's not in the far right-hand corner, can't see totally for you, but I can see from here that there's a 3D thematic graphic that again shows the population density. One thing that we look at the City of Bellevue is that recently and going forward, we have had a number of new housing starts that have come through the Planning Commission and to the City Council for approval. We expect the housing starts and developments to continue. So again, we feel that the population density that you're seeing, again, is only going to increase in terms of the numbers. I mentioned earlier on the one slide the household data that we have 6 zip code areas within this jurisdiction of Bellevue. And I guess starting with zip code 68005, as you're aware, Bellevue is considered to be Nebraska's first city. And we obviously have a lot of well-established areas within our community. You will also will hopefully notice that the zip codes that make up Bellevue are large areas, but are very diverse as well. This is important to note because most of, for instance, in the zip code 68005 area, which consists of Old Town, Bellevue, and areas north but east of the Kennedy Freeway, it shows an average household income in that area of just over $53,000. However, what developers don't see is that the average in the northern section of this zip code area, which is really a large portion of the community, has an average household income of over $81,000, which is $34,000 above the state average and $35,000 above Omaha's average. So I think that's significant to realize because, again, sometimes numbers can be misleading until you really drill down. In the next slide, we have zip code 68123. And this is another example if you look at the average household value of the entire area, it's just over $162,000. However, if you take the middle section of the area, which is where the majority of the population lives within that area, the average household value is over $244,000. Now that's $82,000 over the state average, which again, for developers looking at that, we were hopefully that would be appealing from the standpoint of the financial capacity with the people that live within that particular zip code. Now, the next 3 slides deal with remaining 3 zip codes, 68133, 68147, and 68157. And again, hopefully you'll notice similar numbers that I pointed out on the prior slides. But the point that really needs to be stressed to both current and potential developers is that a well-established community such as Bellevue, there are pockets, strong pockets of demographics throughout each zip code area, which is well above the state average and has the potential of drawing customers from other surrounding areas. The bottom line, this is an ideal situation, we believe, for businesses looking to move to Bellevue or expand their existing businesses. I'm just going to flip though. This information is in your booklet. But next I want to get to a slide that shows some data from the Metropolitan Area Planning Agency's traffic survey, most recent survey that they conducted. What it shows is that if you look at the most traveled intersections within Sarpy County, Bellevue is home to the 2 top intersections in terms of traffic volume. Those intersections are the 36th Street and Highway 370 and 25th Street and Highway 370. They're the number 1 and 2 intersections in terms of traffic volume within Sarpy County. But also the intersections off Cornhusker are increasing in volume as well. And I was a little surprised to hear that the intersection of Galvin Road and Harlan Road, just as right outside Bellevue University, ranks 9th. And in fact, if you compare them to the other data, they rank higher than intersections such as 96th Street and Highway 370. I share this information with you because I believe it lets potential developers know really how much traffic exposure that they would have every day in Bellevue to businesses, because it is a significant flow of traffic that just transfers through the city of Bellevue and our jurisdiction. Now, in looking at the business sector, obviously Bellevue is very proud to be the home of Offutt Air Force Base. And we value the relationship that we have developed with our friends in the armed forces. And I am going to talk a little bit more briefly about actually the economic impact that Offutt Air Force Base has on both Bellevue, the metropolitan area, and the state of Nebraska. We're very proud of the diverse number of businesses, though, that we have in Bellevue and that have a significant employment base. I'm sure that if you look at when you look at the list that we have up there, they're recognizable to you. But I think one thing that's really important is if you look at the annual payroll collectively of those businesses in Bellevue, it's over $600 million a year in annual payroll. And as you know, what is remarkable to me also is that that number does not take into account Offutt Air Force Base. That excludes the impact that they have in terms of on that number. Talking more about Offutt Air Force Base, and it's gotten a lot of coverage in the media here recently, but one thing when you talk about the economic impact that the Offutt Air Force Base has on our community in the state of Nebraska, and we aren't talking millions of dollars, we're talking $1 billion. In fact, the estimated economic impact that Offutt has is over $1.3 billion annually. And that's significant. And then if you look even further and then you look at their annual payroll, Their annual payroll is over $627 million a year. Again, you combine that with the prior figure I gave on businesses, what their annual payroll is, coupled with Offutt, that is a huge amount of income that's generated by both Offutt and the surrounding businesses. Now, the businesses in Bellevue and the surrounding area benefit greatly from the base, and that is why, if you read recently and you followed along in the media, Mayor Sanders and other city leaders, coupled with the governor, have fought very hard to support Offutt on issues such as the runway, expansion and rebuilding, as well as the reconstruction of the levees that protect the base from flooding. Offutt is a great partner, and we appreciate, obviously, what they mean to Bellevue and the surrounding communities. Also, you had this ties into a couple of slides I just showed, but again, also to point out the impact that Offutt has is they're our largest employer in the state of Nebraska. They employ over 10,000 people, roughly split between military and civilian. But the other thing that's really important to note is that there are over 43,000 military retirees that live with 150 miles of Offutt and Bellevue that commute to our area for shopping and other services. And that's significant. So I'm going to wind up the next two slides talking about opportunity gap. This slide shows the amount of what we call retail leakage that leaves Bellevue every day. It also shows, though, more importantly, the opportunity for growth for businesses that want to capture some of these dollars that are leaving our area. And last, the slide I want to show, again, it relates to opportunity gap. This slide hones in on demand versus supply opportunity gap in Bellevue. And obviously, you can look at the various business sectors, just to point out one in particular on the lower left-hand corner where it talks about clothing and accessories. You can see of that $35+ million gap that clothing, retail clothing, itself is over $27 million annually in terms of retail leakage. So if you look at that gap and you look at the other areas that show opportunity gaps, it is obvious that Bellevue has plenty of room to support new businesses in a variety of areas. And clearly it's an effort that the City of Bellevue, the Chamber of Commerce, and the various economic development partners that we have are definitely working hard and will continue to work hard to try to fill this opportunity gap going forward. So with that, that concludes my part of the presentation.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is John Mengfrecker. I'm a business because you want somebody to be picking up the phone and answering those questions when you have them. You don't want to stay up at night thinking about what didn't happen. And are getting it right the first time repeatedly. So I'd like you to take away 3 R's from today. Those 3 R's are right, resource, and realtor. Right is getting the site due diligence done as a base map for the development that comes next. You don't want to have any surprises. Nobody likes surprises. And so we do site due diligence. That's an ALTA survey, Phase 1 environmental assessment, and zoning reports. And we do those before the plans go into Phase 1. So it's always done up front, and that gives us a base map that gives us the information that we need to help you out. The second R is resource. We have maybe 50% of the land subdivisions in Sarpy County and maybe 40% of the land subdivisions in Douglas County. Now, Doug Dreesen might disagree with me over there. But one of the things that we do is we add value to your land. So we'll take those base maps and we'll add a concept drawing onto that base map to show you what you can do with your lands. We look at the zoning, we look at the maximum use of that property and prepare a concept, and you can put that concept onto your realtor exhibits to show what potential you have for a piece of property. So that's adding value. And the last thing is realtor. We have a campaign for realtors where we do those concepts for no charge. We want to get involved with the project early on, and so we do those upfront designs before the engineering starts just to see if a project is feasible. Now, if you have a property listed, we'll do those for no charge. We'll do that for free. So that's why you want to hang on to that card that says Jason Thielen on there, because he's the guy that you want to call. He's the one that's going to help you with that. So thank you very much for having me.
Okay, good afternoon. Good to see so many of you here. You know, there's so many folks I see in the audience that we do see in front of the Planning Commission, and I know I'm going to do a couple shout outs here, folks that maybe didn't get introduced. Chris Shuchak, if you'd wave. Tammy Palm, these two are the heart and soul of our Bellevue Planning Department. So again, when you're going to come to Bellevue and do some business, these are the two folks you're going to be working with. Also, there's just a sliver of Bellevue that falls outside of our extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction, which is still in Sarpy County. So, 1972, People Magazine's sexiest man alive, Denny Wilson, is here. I want to point him out. County engineer, might get into play on some of that. And also Bruce Fountain. Where's Bruce? Sarpy County Planning Department over on that side of the room. So I wanted to let you know, if you don't know those guys, a couple of the faces you'll also maybe be working with on development. All right, I've got a great part of the program here today, which basically gets to show you some of the exciting things that's happened since we last did this. We have done this program now, this is our third time, I guess, in 3 years. We decided, you know, about every 18 months is the right amount of time to have in between programs, because there will be new development that will have occurred. And for those of you that maybe have not come down or done development in that period, we want to be able to show you here's what's going on, here's what's happening, and hopefully spur your interest in coming to Bellevue. And if I can figure out how to move a slide here, I'm going to give you a quick overview of what I'm going to be going through. For those not familiar with Bellevue, you know, your main north-south corridor in the middle is Kennedy Freeway, Highway 75. Running parallel to that is Fort Crook Road. That used to be the main thoroughfare coming through Bellevue before the Kennedy Freeway went in. So we'll be talking about those two as kind of our placeholders for our north-south roads. And then along each, you know, mile marker, we've got the main east-west thoroughfares. You got Chandler Road on the north of Fort Crook, followed by Cornhusker, Highway 370, Cape Art, and then Fairview. And again, this Fort Crook Road corridor, which you'll hear more about today, that's about a 6-mile stretch. And the city, I believe it's a year and a half ago, we did blight and substandard along that entire stretch. So again, if you're looking for development opportunities and you've got a project where you like blight and substandard, redevelopment, that's a great corridor for looking at some of those items. All right, with that said, Do a quick roundup here. Fort Crook Road, you know, there's been a number of things that have come in the last 18 months since we were last here together. Starting up towards the north, Family Fair went in where it used to be the old No Frills, and they put in almost $1 million in that building to redevelop when they came in there. Also on the right side, the two pictures there, the old Amarillo Barbecue became the Special, and next to Lum's Restaurant is the Golden Bowl. Again, for anybody who thinks Fort Crook Road is a dead area, I can tell you, go visit these two restaurants. They're doing absolutely phenomenal on Fort Crook. And for years, Fort Crook had a reputation of you open a restaurant there and it's going to close 6 or 12 months later. No longer the case, and these two restaurants are absolutely hitting it out of the park. In the middle there, Richmont Terrace, that's a new 72-bed, I believe. Am I saying the number right? 72-bed assisted living facility, and that's on the intersection where Fort Crook and Cornhusker meet. Previously, the owners of Richmont have had a 99-bed unassisted living facility. So this complements that and goes next door. They're also building a new, what'll be a strip mall for additional retail in front of that. Staying on Fort Crook, you know, up on the north, as you come off of Chandler and start traveling south, it's kind of our auto dealer row. We've got a couple of them right on the intersection of Chandler and 75 when you're coming down. But if you then get off on Chandler and start dropping down on Fort Crook, we've also got a number of dealers lined up there. Beardmore Subaru, they expanded. It's coming up on that 1.5, 2-year point, but they put between $5 and $6 million into that dealership. And next to them, Corwin Toyota used to be the old Bellevue Toyota. There's a new family came in, bought them out, and again, they put money in, hundreds of thousands of dollars to redevelop that, and again, freshen it up. And in between there, foreshadowing, Jim will tell you about another dealership that will soon be coming in between those two yet to come. What else? Getting off of Fort Crook, if you go on the main Cornhusker corridor, the Cricket Wireless and Affordable Computer you see there used to be the old Fantasies gas station. It's on the intersection of 15th and Cornhusker, and they tore out the Fantasies. They put in about a 5-bay strip center, and they've got that thing full. And I think when I went by there 2 weeks ago, there's also a for sale sign there. So I think they redeveloped it. They got it filled up for tenants, and there's probably an opportunity for any of those of you, like a 1972 People Magazine Sexiest Man Alive, who's maybe looking for a retirement investment. That now that they've got it filled up, they're ready to turn that around and sell it. And then Joanne Fabric on the south side of Cornhusker. That's part of the Wolf Creek addition. Used to be the old Michael store again. Nice to see development going in there. In terms of housing, staying on Cornhusker, if you just go north of 25th Street, Mel Sudbeck's doing a new Spring Ridge addition, basically between where Spring Creek currently is and where Highway 75 is, so kind of an infill project between those two. And again, he's got 203 lots that have gone through planning and been approved, and there's 158 of them coming online as part of the first phase. Dropping down to Highway 370, Twin Creek, just to orient you a little bit in case you're not interested, this is one of the sexiest spots in Bellevue right now. Douglas Theater is right in here. And basically next to that we've got the new City Conference Center going in and the Hotel by Marriott. And then we're going to go through a number of other items coming. For example, on this slide, Charleston Homes is doing a small infill project right back in here. It's a little we got 75 units of apartments coming in here, but we got a little infill project with 48 housing units going in behind the theater. Which, by the way, is in addition to the 240 units of apartments that already went in behind the theater as well. There's the new conference center coming out of the ground. And then Baker's, which is part of the Twin Creek area, added a new gas station this past year. Again, they're doing great. They wanted to expand operations like so many of the grocery stores do by adding gas. Now, Donna's Kebab is just one of the new restaurants in that area. Continuing on, within Twin Creek again, you got Beam Muscle, you got Pepper Jacks, and then if you come just slightly to the east of there off of 25th and 370, that's where Nebraska Medical Center went in, and of course if you're watching the headlines, they were bought out recently by the Nebraska Medical Center in terms of becoming more fully integrated with that system, but they are expanding in that location. One of the things that surprised them is the number of new babies we're delivering in that hospital, and they've expanded facilities to accommodate that. also the new number of people coming in, they had to expand emergency rooms. So when it shows that we've added 7 new patient rooms, and you're going, wow, big deal. Well, those are emergency rooms. I mean, those are the temporary, you got to have more room for more people coming in, because this basically picks up the collector from Plattsmouth and, of course, the whole surrounding area from that 25th and 370 corridor. And then also Pepper Jack's on there, went into that area. Okay, dropping the next corridor south from Kennedy Freeway is Fairview. Next to Fairview Elementary, good to see another housing addition coming in. This will be a Celebrity Homes development with 144 lots recently were approved and online. In terms of, you'll see grading occurring shortly. Okay, going to Capehart. Again, staying on 25th and Capehart, if you know where the Erling Berquist Memorial Hospital is, it's just east of there, or if you can think of where Fort Crook Road is, it's just west of there. There's a number of lots that stayed undeveloped for years. A lot of you might remember the old German-American restaurant went in. I think they might have been the first building down there, and they were open for 5-6 years, kind of the only folks down there. That was right about the time the economy went to heck. Well, if you go down there now, you've got all these new businesses. You got Capehart Family Dentistry just to the east. Big John's Car Wash is redeveloping. You got Foe's Noodle House. And off of 36 in Capehart, just slightly south, you've got new apartments going in as well. But for those of you looking for a place to develop, I would suggest that this 25th and Capehart area is a place where there are lots available. And again, you'll see lots of construction happening there currently. Also on Capehart, these are mostly just west of Erling Berquist Memorial Hospital there. Paparino's Pizza, Lynn's Nail Salon, the Upstart, which is mostly a catering kitchen. People kind of rent this facility if they want to do commercial catering. It's not for you and I to go there and eat. It's more of a commercial operation. And then you got Speedy's, which gas station has closed up. They're back reopened and in business. All right, flipping ends of towns on you a little bit. Let's head to Old Town area, which is Galvin Road, coming off of Fort Crook Road, and meets up with Harvell and takes you there. Moonstruck Meadery. Moonstruck Meadery. For those of you who don't know what mead is, it is wine that is based on honey. So instead of using grapes or cherries or whatever you ferment, they use honey. And this guy has done so well, the bay that he started with, they have since expanded into the bay next to them, and they started offering lunch and also dinner. Plus, he's also obtained another building in Old Town just for his production facility. The guy's got onto a formula here that is doing great, and he's winning lots of awards for those of you who pay attention to submitting wine awards and those things. But Old Town Meadery is a great place to visit if you haven't been there yet. Also, Old Town, you got the Quick Shop. They had taken out basically 3 houses in the Old Town area, expanded their operation, much bigger operation in terms of groceries available, gas pumps. And then heading back, I guess it would be north and west on Galvin, Great Western Bank. I know there's some Great Western Bank here folks today, thank you. They consolidated a lot of their call center operations, and Bellevue was a beneficiary of that in the last 6 months. We've picked up 60 new jobs from the call center here in Bellevue out of that facility. And also, if you know where the Bellevue Public Library is, across the street from that is where this new Fontenelle Square Bellevue family practice is for dentists. A couple other businesses we'll highlight went into Old Town. You got Luigi's, great Italian place. You got Farm to Market. You got Gamer's Toy Store, went in that little bay area where Sarpy County Casa is. And then you got Scooters, went in where the No Frills is, if you kind of go across the street there on 370. Finally, that's it. My time's up. Thank you all. And again, appreciate you coming. It's a great crowd, and trust me, there's lots of good opportunities here in Bellevue. Hope to see all of you coming back.
Thanks, Tom. Before we get into what's in the pipeline, I just want to make a quick comment, a couple quick things. Tom mentioned the Quick Shop in downtown Bellevue. They basically tore it down and rebuilt it and added fuel pumps into it. It is the only Quick Shop I've ever seen grocery carts in. So if someone's looking to develop a small-town grocery in downtown Bellevue, there's your competition there. You go in there and they're generally 20 people deep standing in that Quick Shop for staple items. So it's kind of an interesting little factoid, but it's just amazing to see what happens in there. The other one is in the pipeline. I think the state is moving and advancing forward the funding for the levy. I think it was a $25 million price tag, and mainly the levies, Mayor, if I get it right, it's just right east or south of Offutt, you got a strip of levees that need to be upgraded. And within that, we have kind of two issues that if the levees aren't funded and improved, as you'll hear a little bit later on some of our Highway 34 economic development, that corridor for our light industrial for the future down there, that would put that in jeopardy. And then that small thing we call Offutt Air Force Base, which only puts 10,000 employees in our metropolitan area, it would put that at a little bit at risk too. So coming in the general election, there will be a bond for the balance of the funding that the state doesn't fund, and I believe it's probably going to be in the neighborhood of like roughly $12 million, but between Sarpy, Bellevue, and Omaha, I think are the three sources that will fund the levies. So you'll see that on the ballot this spring, I think it is in May, and just want to give you the heads up that it's vote yes, and you can, it's kind of a no-brainer. You can see why. It's very important to Bellevue, but also to the metropolitan area that we take care of that levy. So in our pipeline, let's talk a little bit about what's happening here in Bellevue. Some additional developments here along the Capehart area. If you're familiar with where Lakewood Village is and Quail Creek is, we have another subdivision that's being plotted right now, which should be roughly 295 lots. That's a Liberty subdivision by Regency Homes. Those will be homes in the 300 to 400,000, similar to what you see in Lakewood. So that's something that will probably start grading here. I want to say later this, probably going into the summer or fall, I think is where they'll probably move that to. So that's another one that's in the pipeline. And then south on 48th and Capehart, we have another, it's Birchwood Homes, it's Cedar Grove subdivision. It's another 79 lots, and those are homes that will range in the 300,000. So a lot of the growth, we have a lot of opportunity for growth in our southern sector of the city, and you're starting to see that move along here, where we've been a little stagnant for a couple of years because of the economy, but things are picking back up. So you're seeing builders come in and cite those. So that number that Dan gave you earlier of 86,000, we're shooting to be the number 2 city, aren't we, Dan? If we can cram and jam them in. Corwin Toyota, you know, they took the Toyota location on Fort Crook, but they've just recently, I think it's been approved through planning now, have bought a piece of property right next to Baxter off the Chandler exit, and you'll see them probably expand their dealership up to that location and put more of the new car models up in that. And I think they're going to take they haven't identified it yet, but the old lot on Fort Crook, they'll take that, probably make it more used cars. So they're going to operate out of both sites. But it kind of fills in that whole auto row, because up with Baxter, you also have Woodhouse. And I think that'll probably break ground, let's say late summer, early fall maybe. If I'm misspeaking, Chris, just shoot me here. Kind of a $1 billion project that is well underway. STRATCOM, again, just like to point out that we're kind of in the final throngs of that. You see a lot of play going on out there right now, but I think that's late 2016 is still their target date. You know, it's another thing that Bellevue's proud of, to keep that and anchor that here. What that means to us, you know, when you look at it, it's the construction contract is $500 million, and then the balance of that $1 billion is going to come from software and development. But more will come on the base here. These things have to, of course, be funded and reallocated, but as STRATCOM moves over to their new facility, the general plan is to move a portion of the 55th wing into the old STRATCOM building, and then there's 14 old buildings that they would like to probably plan for future demolition. So there'll be more discussion on demolition, but then in demolishing some of that, it'll solve some of their runway issues as far as how they future develop that, but along with maybe the support of future missions. So worth an eye to keep what's happening not only with STRATCOM, but often. Twin Creek, you heard Tom talk about the Marriott Conference Center. In front of the Marcus Theater is the Twin Creek Village that's kind of in the planning for under development. Largely a retail restaurant development that we'd like to finalize and get that moving. As the conference center and hotel come into play, the interest for this property is growing exponentially. So I think we'll see some development here. What they like to refer to it in that area there is the $65 million mile. With the development that's already happened between the apartments, the conference center, the Class A office buildings, and the theater, you throw in the Twin Creek Village, and you're going to have the $100 million mile. So I don't know if there's a famous saying we can come up with that, but that's a lot of development in one compact area. But if you look at it, I think you saw the traffic corridor earlier. that with 51,000 cars moving through 36 and 370, it's a busy sector there with lots of potential. Over on Cornhusker, and it's but roughly 9th and Cornhusker, we have Lockwood development. It was the old Course Lab property. Up on the, right underneath where you see the word site, the retail development side of that would be 2 large anchors are being recruited, along with 2 retail bays in front. I think it's around 8,000 and 13,000 square feet. I think there's some issues of, I think they've got their small players in the 13,000, 8,000 strip pretty well identified. It's just sighting down the anchors and getting that part of the deal inked. But we hope to see an announcement come here within the short order. We said last year that it'd probably be this spring, so we're hoping that here between spring and summer we'll see some things pop there. On the east side of the Lockwood development, on the bottom side of that slide is, it's gone through city planning, looking at a development for 200 apartment complex, or 200 units on an apartment complex, kind of mid to upscale. Not only serves the young population that comes out of the downtown market from Omaha, which is roughly less than a 10-minute commute, so that's going to be part of their target audience. But something interesting is going on with our university here. This year, I think we have just shy of 100 Chinese students and roughly 170 students from India. Next year, that number will double, and we don't have the housing for them, apartments. On the north side of that, you'll see there's still some plan for small retail development too. So along with the apartments, maybe some small retail shops that may go in on that northern side. So again, Fort Crook Road is starting to see some really good action on it. Right across the street from Lockwood is Richmont Pointe 2. Richmont Terrace, which is in the middle of the property there, is open for business, or roughly coming open for business here, I think, in April. And then in front is another planned 18-bay retail restaurant development that the earth has been moved. And I think it's, Rick, I know you're in here. We'll probably sometime later this year, you'll probably see some development move. Something we always like to mention is Offutt Air Force Base. When they took down their housing and repurposed it in Rising View, certain sectors of their property that they don't have use for from a military perspective, they've moved it to kind of looking for a joint use with a civilian developer, and they're always open to entertaining the potential for use of their property, whether it be for retail. At one point in their larger site, they had talked about using it for a conference center and a hotel because it would also support the base's mission. But they really have 2 sites. There's one that's graded purple up on the top there. I think they have 4 acres up in that sector, and then to the south another one's available that is about another 6 acres. But we have some handouts on that, so if anybody's interested in further discussions with the base, it's kind of a complex process, but it's be like a 50-year land use lease between the base and the individual that leases it. It would be small retail or something along that line that would serve both the base population and the civilian population. Would work out great for that. And that's just the 4 acres. That's kind of what's in the pipeline. I'm sure there's more to come. These are things that we can talk about that we know about. But as a good partner that helps us not only with the strategy but the funding process.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Joe Sullivan, Market President with U.S. Bank in Omaha. And I want to start by commending the City of Bellevue, Mayor Sanders, City Council, City Administration, the Greater Bellevue Chamber of Commerce for all the success, the growth, the population growth, the business growth that you've seen. I'd also like to commend you for the redevelopment plans that you have in the works. I think you've got some really exciting things on the table. They tie right into the growth that I think you have going on here. U.S. Bank is honored to be a presenting sponsor for this event. We are active members of the Greater Bellevue Chamber of Commerce. We're involved in the Economic Development Committee that is hosting this event. We're really fortunate to have great business and consumer relationships in the city of Bellevue. And as I look out today, I see several clients and partners that we work with in Bellevue. Our footprint really covers the city. We have locations at South Roads, we're off Galvin Road, and we're also in Twin Creek. We're certainly excited about everything that's happening in the community, and we're looking forward to working in support of economic growth in Bellevue. I wanted to share today just a few things that we're really proud about at U.S. Bank, and I thought I'd also share a few projects, real estate projects that we're involved with that I think have some commonality to what we're all looking at as far as opportunities in Bellevue today. So first, just a few things about U.S. Bank. We were recently named one of the world's most ethical companies. And in today's political environment and some of the rhetoric that we hear around banking, which quite frankly I think is somewhat unfair and really doesn't reflect the type of banking that we see in the state of Nebraska, but we're very proud to be on that list. We're actually the only large commercial bank that's on that list in the United States. Fortune magazine recently named us the #1 most admired super regional bank. That's actually the 5th year in a row that we've received that award. I did want to mention we're here in Bellevue, knowing how important our military is and our veterans are. We were recognized by a publication called GI Jobs as the most military-friendly employer for both 2015 and 2016. And I could tell you, obviously, our military and our veterans are so important for this community, for our country. It's been a real emphasis for U.S. Bank. We found that our veterans are just absolutely fantastic coworkers. They're great people. We have Marcos Hernandez, who's a veteran that I work with, sitting right here. So that's really important to us. Just from a lending and an investment standpoint, supporting the communities that we live and work in is really part of our core business. That ranges from lending to investment. We do a lot around financial education, and then volunteering is just extremely important to the bank. We're really focused in lending around areas that involve economic development, job creation, affordable housing, and small business. So I'm just going to share a few quick examples of that again, I think kind of tie into some of the opportunities that we all are looking at here in Bellevue. U.S. Bank provided financing, and our U.S. Bank Community Development Corporation provided an equity investment for the complete renovation of a vacant 6-story former hospital in Omaha. It was converted into a mixed-use development for veterans, and it's called Victory Apartments. The finance and equity was used for the build-out of the dated 1949 building into 90 modern, one-bedroom studio units for veterans. The U.S. Veterans Administration leases space there and has relocated 50 VA employees to the building, which includes a health clinic and offices for veteran services and a comprehensive outreach program. Another project that I want to mention is the Sienna Francis House. We partnered with the Sienna Francis House, which I think all of us know is one of the Midwest's largest emergency shelters and service providers for Omaha's homeless population, to further develop its campus for the chronically homeless. A financing package from U.S. Bank totaling more than $8 million was paired with funds from the Federal Home Loan Bank and HUD Permanent Supported Housing Grant, allowing the Sienna Francis House to construct 48 new supportive housing units in a community services facility located on the site. And finally, this is most recent, late last year, U.S. Bank has provided $24 million in debt along with $11.4 million in tax credit equity for a project currently under construction in Lincoln. The project will be for more than 130,000 square feet in a Class A office building. It's anticipated the tenants will create approximately 450 permanent full-time jobs with an annual payroll of $34 million. About 150 pre-development and construction-related jobs with an estimated payroll of $12 million will result from the development. The employment created as a result of the project will include the creation of new technology sector jobs, as well as the opening of a coding school, and this will help retain in the Nebraska market specialized skills supported or provided through the University of Nebraska. So again, we really commend everything that this group is doing in Bellevue. I would say for those that are looking to invest in Bellevue, and for that matter in the greater Omaha area, we are certainly interested and excited to look for opportunities that we can partner with you. So thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to say that out on the tables there is a packet of information which includes...
Your right arrow advances, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Which includes the forms to fill out if you're interested in applying for the program. As Jim alluded to, it was the LB 840 bill that started this, and cities across the state of Nebraska and villages can apply for this through voter approval. Most of us have been conditioned to believe that LB stands for legislative bill and then the number, but a few of us believe that it means love Bellevue for at least 8 ways through the year 2040, because that's how long this program lasts. So, the program administrator is our city administrator, Dan Berlowitz, and like as I said, LB 840 was originally passed by the legislature 25 years ago, and it's a way to help economic development in your area. How does the city of Bellevue want to use it? Well, the city of Bellevue has designated the southeast part of the city in their planning and jurisdiction as the target for this program, and will promote development in that area, which amounts to about 5,000 acres. And for those of you who don't know exactly where that is, here's a map of it, and it's it looks like pink or lavender highlighted area. So as you can see, the southern border is the Platte River, the east border is the Missouri River, and then it goes up to like Cunningham Road and then over to the Kennedy Freeway. These are the ways that, the 8 ways that I talked about. This is what we're trying to do, is obviously create new jobs, get businesses in here, broaden the tax base, and so on. What can you use the money for? Hey, these are the 8 ways, at least. There's, of course, building acquisition, job training, renovation, new facility construction, acquisition of machinery and equipment, acquisition of furniture and fixtures. Working capital includes inventory, and of course the ubiquitous other. So the Bellevue can purchase real property to help with economic development, and proceeds from the sale of the property will fund this program as well as tax dollars. Bonds can be issued. These are the kinds of things that it can be used for: infrastructure, water, sewer, electrical, gas, transportation. There's railroad tracks and crossing down there, and of course barges on the river. How does this work? The city has set up standards on how to use this program, and it started, like Jim said, a year and a half ago, and it goes through April 30th of 2040. And the city, as I said, can issue bonds for it. How is it administered? Well, the bill requires that there be a committee, a citizen advisory committee, of which there are currently 5 members on. I am one of those members. That was established by the mayor and the city council. These 5 voting members have to have experience in business, finance, or accounting, and included as ex officio members are the program administrator, Dan Berlowitz, the city administrator, and designated city official. So we have Larry Burks on the committee, and also Rich Severson. We meet on a quarterly basis, and at least annually we have to provide updates to the city council on what has been going on and what we have done. So what have we done so far? Well, thanks to our Larry Burks and Dan Berlowitz, is the forms that applications must be filled in with. And that's included, and there's, as you might expect, it's like a business plan. What are you worth? What are you planning? And then the committee reviews your plan to see, is this a good plan, and is this something that the city wants to fund? Of course, it has to be with matching funds, and funds are offered to businesses either at low interest rates or no interest rates. It can be a grant. The committee reviews and approves or not recommends the applications to the city council, who has the ultimate approval on whether the plans will be accepted or not. Upon approval, the city council votes on the timing and the distribution of the plans. So far, we have had no applications. We are waiting, and we are ready to meet at any time. We don't have to wait for our quarterly meetings to analyze and review these plans. So any of you who are interested in submitting something, get your packet of information. Please feel free to also call Larry Burks or Dan Berlowitz, and we will get right on it and work with you to get something in Bellevue. Thank you.
First, thank you everyone for coming. It's exciting to see all these people interested in Bellevue. I do also want to mention that Neil Kraus is also on the LB 840 committee. Neil, if you want to wave your hand, and we're excited to be working with you. Thank you again. First, on the slides up there, you'll see the Platteview Road Exchange, and if you look at the slide, to your left is the south, just to give you kind of a geographic bearings there, and to the north is to your right. At the bottom of the screen should be the east, and then the north is the west. So as you see, the exchange will add a road to the west to Platteview Road from Highway 34. It is in the La Platte area and the Normandy Hills area south of Bellevue. And to the east of that and south and east of that, you will see the LB 840 area that Sharon had talked about previously. The core slab site and PCS nitrogen along Highway 34 is in that area as well. This is a general area of the LB 840 area, and we've identified creatively 3 main parcels that we're focusing on now with Parcel A, Parcel B, and Parcel C. We thought that would be easy enough to understand. As you can see, there's a lot of potential there. There's nearly, within the LB 840 area and this area here, there's almost 5,000 acres to work with. So one of the big problems, though, is land control and acquiring land control through options and those types of things. It's exciting, though, that we have the potential south of Bellevue for industry and manufacturing and rail serve sites. Recently, we have, Elizabeth Hanson, are you here? I know I saw you earlier. From Leo A. Daly? Hunter, I'm sorry. Elizabeth Hunter with Leo A. Daly helped us work with several of the economic development folks in the community. We worked on a comprehensive vision for the LB 840 area, in particular Parcel A. But first I want to mention that for a Kickstarter, if you will, the only land under control right now is 62 acres owned by the city of Bellevue. This is within the corporate boundaries of Bellevue, so it is eligible for TIF. It is eligible for LB 840 dollars, and if the project is large enough, the Nebraska Advantage Act could be considered as well. 62 acres. The city of Bellevue has it listed on LOIS, which is the Location 1 information system that property owners and brokers list properties on, and they have it, if you want more information, LOIS is a good site. Leo A. Daly was wonderful, and they partnered with us to develop a vision for an industrial rail serve site in this area. This is a very aggressive, a very challenging, but a very exciting vision for this this area. As you can see, there are 3 different main parcels that you could work with, and most of the land is owned by Rod Iskey, and it's a 650-acre parcel, and then the Bellevue Future Development, or Bellevue Future Trust, owns 253 acres, and then, of course, the 62 acres owned by the city of Bellevue. The land use plan is industrial manufacturing, warehousing, distribution, food processing, and in particular, rail serve sites are hard to come by nowadays, so we decided we would try and provide some opportunities in that area. Phase 1, if you will, of the site could include the 62 acres that the city of Bellevue owns, and possibly, if the negotiations went well, you could, anyone could purchase the Bellevue Future Developments property as well. If there were to develop one phase with one lot, that would come out to about just over $17,000 per acre when you put in the infrastructure. 2 lots would be about $25,000 an acre, and then a third lot, if you were to add that, be approximately $38,000 per acre. For rail, as an add-on, it would be about $3.5 million. So, as I said, it was aggressive, but it is very exciting to have this opportunity in our community to present some industry and promote Bellevue's manufacturing and create some job growth. Again, this area is qualified for LB 840 funds, so we'd be glad to talk to anyone. And I do, and since Elizabeth Hunter is here, we'd be happy to answer more questions and give you a little bit more information about the entire plan. Thank you again for coming.
As everybody knows, or I hope everybody knows, the city offices that are on Mission Avenue right now will be moving over to the Wall Street complex, hopefully in about a year, maybe a little bit longer, depending on how everything plays out. So as we move out of those spaces on Mission, we're looking at what might happen on our property and adjacent property in the future. The planning department was tasked with coming up with what we call a vision for that area. And I won't go through every slide we've got, they're all in the packet, but we'll go through some of them and talk about what our plan is or our hope is for the Old Town Mission Avenue corridor once the city moves out. The area that we're looking at, Old Town area, is a lot of residential areas, the original platted area of the city. What you see there in the red is kind of the core area that we looked at for our Old Town vision. Again, there's a more close-up of it, two full blocks and a half block on the north side of Mission, and then 2 full blocks and parts of a couple other blocks on the south side of Mission Avenue. The city owns much of the north half of the street on the 2 full blocks, those half blocks fronting on Mission. The city owns most of that, so we will be looking at actually redeveloping that with a broker and somebody to come in and actually do the redevelopment for the city, and we're hoping that that will spur additional development on the south side of the corridor. Before we get to that actual core area, we look at the access improvements to the area. Main access points are at Mission and Lincoln, which is the picture here. What we'd like to see happen here is to realign that so that you have a straight shot coming down Lincoln Road and curving on to Mission Avenue, and then Galvin coming up from, or Lincoln coming up from the base, teeing into that. That is the major movement there from Mission to Lincoln. So that would be a traffic improvement and access improvement for the Old Town area. Another, and this is truly a vision, no plans yet for this other than it's been talked about. On the east end of Old Town, the only way to get from the south part of Bellevue down along Harlan Road or Harlan Lewis Road is coming up through a residential area on Hancock. What we would like to see is some road in the future coming from the south, going to the east around Base Lake and coming up to Mission Avenue in the vicinity of Hayworth Park. And that'll help with the industrial commercial development in the south, so it doesn't have to, so traffic from that doesn't impact the residential street. Hancock, it has a better route and a more appropriate route to Mission Avenue and the Old Town area. Again, here's the core area. The areas in blue are currently owned by the city. The other areas, the kind of pinkish reddish, are commercial areas, and there are a few lots that are currently residential. What we'd like to see in the future is the civic area, the commercial area, or the area that is owned by the city, turning into more of a commercial mixed-use type of development. The fire department will stay where it is there, and then the half block fronting 23rd Street turning into residential development. What we're looking for is a mixture of commercial and residential uses in the core area, bringing people to the area to live there, to shop there, maybe work there, and work in businesses that support the Old Town area. So kind of the vision is to have multi-story buildings with some sort of commercial, office, retail on the lower level and residential on the upper levels. This is an example from the Galvin area. Here's another example with, again, retail or commercial space on the lower level and residential on the upper levels. On that residential only half block on the south side, these are some examples of things that have happened in Omaha. These are detached single family. These are more apartments or townhouses. Those types of things would be able to fit and we feel would be appropriate on the on that residential portion of the block. As far as the street, this is what the street looks like now. There's two through lanes, a turn lane, and parallel parking on either side. What we'd like to turn it into is 2 through lanes, one in each direction, angle parking on each side. It'll serve the businesses a little bit better. And then expand to 100 feet of right-of-way so that you have adequate pedestrian space, outdoor dining, walking, and landscaping areas on the side. One thing we did not include here was, and purposely, we did not include a bicycle lane for this area. We felt that if we designate one of the adjacent streets, either 23rd or 22nd Street, as a bicycle lane, that will provide a network or add to the network for alternative transportation. They'll be able to access, obviously, Mission Avenue, but will not interfere with any traffic or movement on the street. This is the profile with the bicycle lanes, and it does just only provide for parallel parking on each side of the street. And one of the reasons we left this is we stayed within the existing curbs of the street to cut down maybe a little bit on the major reconstruction of the roadway. This is an overview. You can see the parallel parking, the traffic on each street, landscaping nodes that will be used to calming traffic. And the one thing in the middle there is Jefferson Street. We're proposing to close that from the alleys on either side, north and south, make it a more public space, a place for festivals, craft shows, whatever, outdoor dining, seating, just whatever might be appropriate at the time of the year for businesses, civic events, to bring people to the Old Town area. This is just an example of probably an area that is really too small for what we would want in there. It's just 14 feet. You've got some seating, but the landscaping is minimal and there's not a lot of room for pedestrian traffic there. Design standards, we have those in place. I won't go into those. We believe that what we have in place now for the city requiring different types of building materials, differences in elevations and planes of the building will be sufficient in the Old Town area. Implementation of this, it's not going to happen overnight, we all know. Some of the things that the city can do to show that we're serious about this, refine and design the transportation improvements, include those in our capital improvement plans. There are going to be some amendments to our zoning ordinance that will be required to implement this. I think it was mentioned, or if it wasn't already, this entire area has been declared as blighted and substandard. You can see it's kind of the light blue area is all blighted and substandard. So tax increment financing is available for this area as well. This is some of the things we do. I would like to point out that the city has issued it wasn't an RFP, but a press release. We're looking for brokers, developers, somebody who can come in and work with the city to redevelop the Old Town area. We asked for information packets to be submitted April 13th. There's more information on the city's website, or you can contact me or others at the city. Dan, Larry, Dill Davidson put out the RFP or the press release. So anybody interested in working with the city on doing this, redeveloping the Old Town area, we'd like to hear from you, and we can move things along, get that going, and get things in process before we move out, so the buildings don't sit there empty for a long time after we've moved out.
If OPPD is not the first place that people come to when they're doing economic development searches, we're the second place. The Omaha Chamber, Sarpy County Economic Development Corporation, DED, we work very closely with those groups to find the right place for the right fit. Green, let's see, there's the arrow. Just to give you kind of a recap of what's happened, I've used these slides, a couple of these slides before, but to show you the infrastructure that's being used and developed in the southeast Sarpy County area. In May of 2013, a new substation was energized at 27th and Platteview Road. That substation has the potential to grow 3 times its size, so it was built for purposes of growth. We know that the area is going to grow, and we are working to acquire that. And that currently serves about 5,000 existing customers located with roughly a 2-mile radius of the substation. The substation site was laid out to allow expansion, like I said earlier. The most interesting thing that's going on that's new is that there's a large power transformer addition at the substation. This is for the plan for the spring of 2016. This transformer will provide additional capacity, improved transmission system and reliability throughout the Bellevue area. So we can put in a transformer, and we don't have to put in more wires that will boost the electrical currents in the southeast Sarpy County and southeast Bellevue area. It helps with the reliability issues and enhances the power quality in that area. There's a picture of it. Many of you have seen it before, but it has the potential to be almost three times the size of that. We have a new substation that we've built at Offutt Air Force Base. Part of the OPPD's long-range plan for the Bellevue area includes Offutt Air Force Base. It's located on Fort Crook Road, north of Capehart Road. It was built to serve the new U.S. STRATCOM headquarters building, other existing buildings on the Offutt Air Force Base campus, and it also serves OPPD's native load in the surrounding area. It's one new substation replacing 3 obsolete substations. It went into service in September of 2014. Other economic development efforts assisted and supported. I wanted to give you a little feel for what we've done to support the Bellevue and Sarpy County area. Assisted and supported the Bellevue on economic development efforts to become a certified economic development community. A young woman by the name of Brooke Aiken, I think, worked closely with Larry Burks to help make that happen. We visited a variety of businesses. Our economic development group is made up of Tim O'Brien, Devin Meisinger, Brooke Aiken, and a young man by the name of Jason Esser. I know that Brooke and Tim have been very active in supporting and helping in the Bellevue area. They've visited with a variety of businesses in the Bellevue area annually and provide information and resources to assist with the growth and information. There's a network. For those of you who do economic development on a professional basis, you know that there's a network of people. And what we use is a program called Xceligent, and we use our information system. We get information loaded onto that shows the sites in the Bellevue area. And we've been very active in helping show those sites in the area. Tim O'Brien is on the Sarpy County Economic Development Corporation. He's the vice president of SCED. Somewhere, I'm not quite sure, we got a little bit out of whack here, but a couple things I wanted to talk about. One of the things we're talking about doing is adding to the PCS nitrogen. You've all heard about the levee system. In the levee system, there's two sets of levees. There's levees on the north and there's levees on the south. What's primarily people are interested in are the levees on the north side because they protect Offutt Air Force Base. On the south side of those levees is PCS Nitrogen's old campus and location. So part of what's, if you look at the infrastructure that's sitting there, one of the things that's sitting there is a big substation. So one of the things that we're looking at is upgrading that substation, and that's part of why the money on both sides of the levees is needed. The state of Nebraska has appropriated, or is in the process, it's not done, the bill is not done yet, but it's pretty close to being done, about $13.5 million. The city of Bellevue, Sarpy County, the NRD, the city of Omaha have ponied up the remaining balance of that to do the reconstruction of the levees. Those levees, as mentioned earlier, are very important. But they're not only important to protect Offutt Air Force Base, they're important to protect those assets that are on the south side of those levees as well.
And again, thanks for coming out, and we'll see you again in 18 months. So maybe even greater things will happen. So thanks again, everybody.